watchers of Cats Are Jerks. This is Tina, your host, and I wanted to do a video today starring Loki, who's just coming into the screen right now. You may remember him from the video I did of bathing a cat, where he was licking his wounds afterwards. To explain, because you can't really see it, Loki is our little half-Siamese Manx. You can see his little stub of a tail. It's so cute, because he kind of uses it like a deer at times. And he's got polydactyl toes, so hopefully he'll let me show that to you today. So in the 4-ish years I've lived with cats, I've learned that you really have to let a cat teach you what it wants as a reward. So our first cat that has gone from us, unfortunately, he got diabetes and died. His name was Clark, and he really could have played Garfield. He was orange, and he was a glutton. Holy cow, that cat was a glutton. He would do anything for food, which worked out well, actually, when he became diabetic, because he'd let us stab him with a needle as long as he got a treat afterwards. We never had to fight him on that. And Loki's saying, "Let's get the show on the road, Mom. I'm bored." But anyway, so he was into food. Our other cat, the tuxedo, whose picture was on one of my previous blogs, his name is Leo, and he's a affection hound. That cat, he loves affection. He is a glutton for affection, whereas this little guy, he's all about the play. He's not even a year old yet, but he's affectionate in that he likes to get petted, but he's very much a cat in that he doesn't want you to pet him immensely, whereas Leo will literally stay in my arms and throw himself into my lap if I'm sitting on the couch, so that I'll hold him like a baby. And I've never trained him to do that. That's just his thing. So I'd like to go over a couple of the things we do to keep these guys entertained, because you have to have a cat entertained, otherwise it will go crazy and drive you nuts. So first off, I'd like to talk about one of the best things. My husband calls this a sacrificial piece of furniture. You may call it a scratching post. And these are vital. We have two. We have one downstairs, which we used when Loki was just a baby because he couldn't get onto the bed. They do sleep with us. So we gave him the scratching post so he could grapple hook his way onto the bed. And they know to use it, and they don't damage our furniture, which we appreciate. He's in the process of trying to attack my camera strap, so I better get him occupied soon. But my husband has actually reupholstered it a few times, which has saved us an immense amount of money. He's put in some new carpet in a couple of our rooms and saved the old carpet. And then whenever this one gets way too threadbare, he gets out the staple gun and he uses the existing one as a pattern and then reupholsters it, because the wood's fine. It's just the carpet itself. You can see it's getting a little ragged, so probably we'll have to get reupholstered in the future. Is good. So we saved probably at least $200, because we've looked at scratching posts in the store and they're at least $80. So if you do your own home remos, hold on to your excess carpet or buy some off of a company if they have a roll end or something like that, and you can save yourself a lot of money. As I said, Leo loves affection, so I'm going to hold this up. I'll get to whatever you just heard in a minute. So I use this. I will put up the video in the future to groom both these guys. It works well on both of them. It's amazing how much this guy sheds, actually. He produces an insane amount of hair. You can still see some of his hair on it. And it works really well, and you get the ability to get the hair off of them, as well as to pet them simultaneously. So usually in the case of Leo, because he loves affection, there's a lot of purring involved when I groom him, whereas this guy, he tolerates it, but the ears are back, and I can tell he'd rather be doing anything but being groomed at that moment. As I mentioned with Clark, he was a glutton, so I actually bought this for them. As you can see, it's shaped like a cat, and what it is it's got a little hole in it, and you put the treats on the top. This unscrews the screen part, and then they hit it like this, and it rocks back and forth, and it will dispense the treats. So if you have a cat whose love language, for a lack of a better way of putting it, is food, it's a great little toy. Although I remember the first morning after we gave it to him and he was figuring it out, so even without treats in it, Loki's finding it a little bit fun to play with. We just heard whack and then trinkle, trinkle, trinkle as we were lying in bed the day after we gave it to him, so that was an interesting experience. So noise is important when it comes to a cat toy, and so I'm going to take this away from you. But be careful with the type of noise you have, because we got this. And I don't know if you could hear that, but it makes a little squeaking noise. Now that's fine, because it really makes the cat interested. As you can see, he's kind of curious about it now. But you want to make sure you don't take the tab that keeps it from squeaking out on your way home, otherwise it will drive you crazy. we did that, and we live an hour away from our pet store, and for an hour we heard with every single bump. Don't do that. Don't follow my example. It was really annoying. We've actually talked about putting a bunch of these in a friend of ours' car and not telling him, so that every time he hits a bump, I'm not a prankster, so I'm not going to do that. But if you are a prankster, you might want to consider it. Another thing we found that's actually really inexpensive is we found out by accident. One day my husband was putting the weed whacker back together. He was refilling the twine, and our other cat, Leo, went crazy over these. He started like biting them, etc. And so we cut off a couple of pieces, and we have them around the house, and they like them. They like to bat at them. They like to play with them. And he will actually, kind of like a dog, you can see him doing it. He puts it between his teeth and then walks around with it. And it's really interesting. They haven't chewed it to bits, we don't have to worry about them swallowing it. So if you have a weed whacker and you have excess twine, that can be a good little toy for your cats as well. They do eventually get sick of it, but like if I were to throw this other piece at him, oh, you can see he's waiting for it. See, he's like in stealth mode now. And of course, there is always the famous laser pointer. Our little guy here, Loki, goes crazy for this thing. And this actually, I realized after I made the video of him after his bath, would be a good way of getting him into the bathroom, because I could literally lead him into the bathroom, which is right over there, and see he went in, and if I just put it a little further, he just loses track of it. But it would be a good way of me to trick him to go into the bathroom for a bath, and then close the door behind him, and he's trapped, and he went in there of his own accord. The other thing that our cat don't really like, except for this little guy, and it was especially when he was a kitten, is we have one of these things. And when Loki first came home, he was just an itty-bitty little thing. We got him when he was just a few weeks old. He really went crazy over this. So this is a good toy as well, because it gives them something that makes noise. It gives them something that causes them to go into hunter mode. He's not really as interested in it these days, because he used to go right in the center. He was small enough when he was a kitten to go right in the center and just work the ball. And he doesn't play with it as much anymore, but he also doesn't ignore it. The other day he dragged it out of his cat bed. I put it in the cat bed so I could vacuum the floor, and he made sure it got out of the cat bed, because he's like, hey, I want my toy. So it's very intermittent, but this one's a bit bigger. The other toys we have for them are quite small. They're little balls, and you can see over there's one of their socks over by the yellow thing. And the yellow thing is actually their toy box. And I like having a toy box, because when you do need to vacuum, and you will if you have cats. Oh, look, he's trying to play with it. See, he still likes it. He just prefers the laser pointer. Boy, does he go in cat hunting mode when I bring that thing up. But I do recommend having a little toy box or bucket, because when you do want to vacuum, they tend to move them. There's a fish over there, and we find toys all over the house, and I'm not sure what they're doing, but they just move them all over the house. And it's a good way of making sure they're contained in one area temporarily, because they're like perpetual toddlers. So that you can be careful. The other thing I'd like to point out is over there, I don't know if you can see it, there is a corn broom, and for whatever reason, my cats like to chew on the ends of the corn broom. I don't know why. I've never been able to figure that one out, but there might be some pieces of straw over there, so I'm just going to move over there for a minute and see. No, they don't have any pieces of straw. But as you can see, it's a little ratty at the bottom, and that's not just from use, that's from the cats as well. Yeah. And so those are the basic toys that we have for them, and we try to keep them from doing it. But those are the things I would recommend for cats. And so I'll do another video in the future on how to groom a cat, or at least methods I've found have been effective in grooming a cat. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video. Have a good day. Bye. Bye-bye, Loki.